Yo, what's up, y'all? Surprise, surprise, stream. Sorry, I'm getting everything situated here before we jump in. I think we should be good. 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 I think we're good. Yeah, it's just a surprise stream. Let me set up the Custa command, and we should be good to go. And Custa, I went to dev, worked on perks, ex-pro player, caster. Lupinus, thank you for the subscription. If I don't respond to any subs and stuff, I've had to turn down some of the notifications just for the discussion and so on, but yeah. Let me make sure that I think we've got everything filled up here. I think everything is ready to go because I had to set up a scene where his face cam will be on and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, I've got some notes. Let me change the headline. Hello YouTube as well. Let's change this. Chatting perks with Custa. Good to see you, Queenie.
I will not leave a broken world behind. To be heard.
Okay, I think we're good. I think we're good. Let me double check to make sure that I have my scene, got my thing going on here. I think we're good. Okay, let's do this. Won't be interacting with chat as much during this, and I do have to go like as soon as we're done. I have a football game this afternoon. So I will be leaving basically as soon as the stream is done, which should be around 2 hours. What was your favorite Overwatch League team besides Spitfire? I didn't really have a favorite Overwatch League team. I was never even really a big Spitfire fan. I was a fan of the players, obviously, but I've never really been a big fan. Even back early in the days when I was watching Overwatch League, like Season 1, I just didn't really have a fan. Or didn't really have a favorite team. No char interaction, yes. Shanghai is the best narrative. Yeah, true. They were really good. Really good. 2021. Okay, we're jumping in. Hey, man. How's it going?
Oh, how's it going?
Good. You don't have to turn on a face cam, but if you do, I have a layer pulled up in my stream. I will not because...
I got you. Oh, that's
okay.
not what you want to see.
Yeah, that's classic.
Alright, there we go.
Banger. All right, let me see if I can get this sorted. So it's so much easier this way because I remember when I did the whole Alec thing, I'd have like different layers and different scenes and whatever in different ones, and it was really bad because for whatever reason their names were in the wrong order in the Discord call, like the face cam.
Yeah,
so it was like I had to change the labels and everything. So okay, I think we're good. Chat, does that look good? I think that should be okay. You're replacing my Twitch chat box for today, so that kind of tells you how low the bar is set for today. But yeah, all right, man. Well, I got my notes pulled up here. Obviously, we'll kind of stick with whatever I told you would go over. But I guess figured we just start with introducing yourself, what you do, how long you've been working, and I guess just more of your responsibilities with the team as of recently.
Yeah. My name's Scott. You probably know me as Custa if you've been in the Overwatch space. I've been on the Overwatch dev team. I'm the associate hero designer since November last year, so I haven't been on there very long. This Perks refresh was probably like my first like project that I kind of like led. That like was kind of like my own. Obviously, everything we do as a team is work collaboratively. We're all working together, but this is something that, you know, like, hey, we're trying to get this many perks out. We're trying to figure out, you know, a perk for every hero. How are we going to do that? And that's sort of what I've been working towards for Season 18.
Cool. Okay, sounds good. Obviously, one of the big questions kind of going into it is like the purpose of perks. And I know you guys definitely had your rhetoric or your ideas or your plans early in February going back to the summit. The content creator connection, the first introduction of perks, everyone's excited. A lot of discussions about transformative, introducing counterplay, just your hero reimagined. Where would you guys feel like your philosophy is with perks as of right now? Because I'm sure most of that has changed, but I'm also sure that probably you guys have learned and iterated on your vision for what perks should be since then. It's been like 6 months already, hard to believe. So where do you guys feel like right now, maybe not with all characters, but the general goal with perks as a system?
Yeah, I think the core idea has stayed pretty much the same since its introduction. Like, you know, we want a new way to play your hero. We want you to be able to select different things throughout the game, to be able to change based on how the match is going and stuff like that. The philosophy has changed. Like, that's something that has just changed a lot since we first came out. I think we were very conservative when the system first came in, you know, like Sojourn gets 15 ammo. It's like, cool. So, you know, there are a lot of things like that we've been trying to get, you know, take out, put new, more interesting things, and like also understanding what players resonated with. Like, what are the things that players were like, oh, this is really fun. This was cool. Like, it's not always the most powerful thing that players were resonating with. It's the thing that like change their gameplay in a meaningful and impactful way. So trying to take a lot of those lessons, take that feedback, and then try and apply that to more of these heroes. And that's what Season 18 was primarily for.
So you're just, in general, if I can be free to use the word aggressive, just because there seems to be more of a positive return of like, okay, wow, people really are cool with us changing the gameplay loop a little bit. Are any perks come to mind that were really positively received that may have been a little bit unexpected?
Oh God.
That's a big question, I know.
Yeah, that's a loaded question as I think back to Season 15. There's been so many perks since before or after then. I would say there are a lot of things in like Okay, let me use this one. I really like Winston's mages in the way, like, there's a really cool choice between, like, do you want to build your ultimate faster with the chain lightning and do more damage from range and be more potent in that situation? Or do you want to be more survivable? Or like, hey, I'm just taking so much damage. They actually don't have high damage. I can get a ton of value out of this healing bubble. Like, that's what I'm going to go for. Like, those are the choices that we've seen players really like, and you can see that in the pick rates and the win rates.
Yeah. It feels like there's a real, even from a strategical standpoint, there's a very clear reason to choose one or the other. Kind of like you said, is my bubble lasting more than 2 seconds? Okay, it's going to be awesome, right? But if my bubble isn't lasting 2 seconds, that generally often is a circumstance in which chain lightning is actually really good, right? So it's really feels the dichotomy there fits really well. And there's silly stuff like even anchor bolts like Torb that is silly, but also really actually kind of quite good. Like it's actually pretty useful in the right circumstance. So okay, so I don't know if you guys have formats or structure with which to use perks. I had spitballed 3 ideas that kind of stuck in my mind. One was just this is just fun. It's just silly. It's fun. It's goofy. The second one was the word that you guys use a lot, which is transformative, which is basically a significant change with how the CD is used. A good example would have been like Vengeful Vortex with Ramattra, which allows you, it is a net buff to the ability, yes, but it also allows you to use it in a different way than you probably were before. A fun perk, I guess, would be something along the anchor bolts. But the third one was counterplay. And this one really speaks to, like, let's say the Wrecking Ball parry perk, right? Where you actually have an ability that is a little bit worse at what it was before, but does something specifically designed to deal with the character's weaknesses. Do you have like a set parameters of perks that fit that list? Is it more of just we're looking for big sweeping changes? We're not really trying to fit a certain box. How does it usually go?
Yeah, I would say our philosophy generally tries to say the same, but it is very much a hero by hero basis. Like we aren't trying to completely fill in every weakness of every hero with perks, right? We're not giving Ana mobility, right? We don't want her to be like jumping up and down verticality. Obviously, she has this.
Can I ask you why? Ultimate. I agree with you, but I think that's something that's not always clear from an outsider perspective.
Because it feels like heroes have intentional weaknesses, and that's a limiting factor of why you would play this hero, right? Like, I want to play this hero because it's really good. I have the range. You know, Ana has an insane amount of utility for a support. You start giving her the ability to just like jump vertically. All of a sudden, she becomes really difficult to dive. She becomes really difficult to punish. She all of a sudden is able to reposition very easily, which is something that can be difficult for her. So we are trying to avoid giving her too many, or like any hero in general, too many situations where it's like, hey, covering up for all these heroes' weaknesses, so therefore they're just great at everything that they do. So that's really what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to make the things that they already do better, or sort of try and like move it to a place that it feels better to use, right? So a big philosophy that we have for minor perks is it should feel like something that is additive to an ability that you already use, that you think about, that's fun to use, and it makes it a little bit better. While, as you said, the major perk should feel more transformative. This should be something that, like, hey, this is actively going to change the way I'm going to play this game, how I use this ability. You know, a great example in this most recent ones is Faster Blaster on Juno. Now, Glide Boost isn't just a mobility tool. It can change the amount of throughput healing or damage that you can do at a time. So that's a transformative way of how you're changing the way that you use Glide Boost. Yeah,
I'm taking notes over here. So basically, you're looking for generally majors are going to be more transformative. Minors just going to be a little bit of addition here and there. This is going to be a doozy because this is going to kind of set the stage for how the rest of this. Why give Wrecking Ball CC immunity? Now, I say that as being one of the people that was proponent of a parry for Wrecking Ball, because my argument is that I think that he was too vulnerable to CC and too powerful without it. So I felt like he existed in too much of the opposite extreme, essentially. Do you agree? Was there a different reason behind that change? Because I'm looking back at what you said with Ana, and it's like I want to find what's the balance here, what's the nuance here.
I think the nuance, that Wrecking Ball parry perk is one of those like almost exceptions to the rules, right? Because like Wrecking Ball is a hero, does have some like severe weaknesses. Like if they have this thing, like they have a ton of like knockback with Brig, they have Sombra with the hack, you kind of just can't play your heroes. So that's kind of becomes the thing of like, there are situations where we're willing to give you something, especially within major perks, which allows you to be like, okay, there is some counterplay here. We usually try and add some cost when it comes with that. Wrecking Ball, we tried to give him more shields that he could give to his allies in his major perk, and guess what? Wrecking Balls don't want to give their shields to their allies almost ever. They just want to like be able to do their thing, right? So we were like taking a step back. What could we give Wrecking Ball that would find value? We saw Doomfist really thrive with his one in like, hey, we're playing against an Ana. This perk is really valuable. If timed right, if used correctly, this can sort of help them out, but it's not oppressive to the point that it's uncounterable.
So you're saying we bend the rule when it's almost classified as a severe weakness, as in like, wow, feels just absolutely awful. But if we're going to give you this, we're going to try to take something away. Okay, that makes total sense. That makes total sense to me. Okay, and then moving on here to the everyone's favorite term, power creep. So my impression of this. So I want to give I'm the worst interview because I'm giving information here. My impression of power creep.
I like that.
All right. So the reason why I wanted to kind of disclaimer this is because I've worked with the whole power creep discussion a long time. There's a lot of accusations of power creep going back to like if you've ever played. I mean, you played Overwatch Classic, right? Compare Ryan there to Ryan now, right? I mean, it's just a different animal, right? And a lot of the discussions around power creep can be kind of polluted because you're right. The game is absolutely power creep, but I think the game's in a better state right now. And the way I define bad power creep is when things get either left behind, like we forget this system or we forget that system, because if not everything's crept at the same rate, stuff gets forgotten. The other thing that I think there's a real legitimate concern with power creep is that sometimes the power creep can exacerbate those severe weaknesses that we talked about earlier. So for example, if we were to bring up, Tracer, right? You've got a character that has extreme mobility and has a lot of mobility cooldowns, which is awesome. But then with her initial iteration, and you remember of the recall perk where she got all 3 blinks back, right? I remember you were not a big fan of that one. And it was such that she was good at what she did, but now she was multiplied that by like 1.8. She's just almost twice as more mobile, and it felt like almost impossible to ever punish her, right? So that we took those strengths and we just exacerbated. So for a lot of characters, there was no counterplay for that. That's where I feel like power creep kind of bothers me. We have to be careful with that. Are you sensitive to that? How much do you guys care about the general term power creep, and how do you guys see your mitigation around that revolving? How does that work?
Yeah, I'm an old school player. I played Overwatch since the beginning of time. I'm always like taking a step back and being like, hey, are we going too far? Like, is this going against what I consider like the ethos of what Overwatch should be? Like, as you said, power creep has come. Heroes are doing more than they ever have. We all played the 2016 Overwatch Classic version. It's like, you're like messing around with that and you're like, it felt bad to play some of those things. So this creep is good, right? But we need to continually limit how far we are going, right? Sure. Perks as a system came in because it was a fresh new way to play Overwatch, right? It was fun. Right. It brought a lot of people to come back. It sort of made us rediscover, what was good in Overwatch, what was fun, all that type of stuff. But Perks as a system overall, it is just power creep. It's an additive system on top of every single hero. There are 2 options that you're going to get stronger. So it's about finding the right balance of like what is being given to the heroes, and that's why we were more conservative when Perks first came in. We didn't want to be just like throw everything at the wall and see what happens. There were some that did break through that, right? Like, I think the Ana double nano boost, the Kiriko double TP, the Tracer recall one is definitely still one on our radar of like, even at 2 blinks, as you said, it's just her mobility is just very difficult to punish. But like, let me actually go on a quick tangent with the Tracer one. Tracer's a really interesting case because it's like a lot of the choices that we've done with her perks is we're sharpening a strength that she already has, which is mobility, right? And one of the big reasons for that is Tracer is on a knife's edge of becoming OP at any moment, right? If she gets a little bit more damage, she gains more utility, all those types of things, it can become really difficult to keep those things in line with an additional perk. So actually in these Season 18 perks, I actually tried a lot of different things of like, hey, what could we give Tracer? I made it that if you had 3 blinks, you could blink in any direction that you wanted. I tried like a bunch of different things that you could do with recall. I changed pulse bomb a lot to see how that would feel. And honestly, a lot of the things really poorly received. The feedback was like, it became really difficult to read. It was hard to feel or understand what Tracer was doing with a lot of the things. So it was an attempt to get rid of that. And unfortunately, we were just like, okay, this is actually going to stay for now. But it is something that I'm still looking at actually for like, hopefully future seasons to make it less impactful.
I hope it doesn't come across as too critical because, obviously there's going to be a lot of that. That's why we're here, right? But also at the same time, I think that there is something to be said for some of these kits are just impossible to make perks with. Like, I remember sitting there thinking about the Tracer perks, and it just felt like there were so many ideas that I came up with that just sucked. That just were really bad. The melee perk, by the way, I'm a huge fan. I think you did a great job, but I don't know if that was one of your ideas, but a big fan. I think that's exactly what you definitely needed, but I can empathize with that because that feels, obviously, with certain characters, I think Genji's another one, where it just feels so incredibly hard to give effective perks that don't just break the character completely.
And there's something that, like, when we're thinking about these perks as well, I'm a competitive Overwatch guy. I love pro Overwatch, so when I'm making these things, I want them to feel good for, the top end players. That Tracer one is one that it's like, you look at and you're like, players maybe down at the lower ranks aren't going to get maximum value, I'm scared of what's going to happen when you see Proper pick up this perk, and now all of a sudden he's just weaving in melees to every bit of damage. I'm excited for it. And when we make these perks, we want to make them for everyone and make sure that it's going to feel effective no matter what rank you're playing in.
Right. Okay. I guess quickly off of that, this is a bit of a segue, so we can skip this one if you want, but I have to bring it up. One of the questions is, how do you guys decide base versus perk kit? So you look at somebody like, I'm trying to think of a good example here. I guess maybe Doomfist is a situation where it feels like he's pretty reliant off of both of his major perks right now, right? Whether it's the slow slam or the empowered punch. Is that something that you factor into balance, into win rates? I know we're kind of getting a little bit outside your wheelhouse here, but how do you approach those kits? Because certain characters feel so incredibly reliant off of their perks, and some don't. So how do you approach those?
Yeah, I would say in general, when we're thinking about perks, we're trying to be like, okay, how do we create something that we think fits within this little spot? Obviously, the balance of the hero is something that is affected by perks, but we're not usually trying to be like, okay, let's, I doubt we'll ever have Power Matrix come into the base kit, right? Like, that's something that is, like, I think incredibly strong. But, like, as we've seen in the past, that slow slam is something that has been in the base kit, right? And I would say if a hero is really struggling, that's the type of things that we start to consider of like, hey, maybe they do need more things in their base kit. Things that are perks where their abilities are something that need a little bit of a tune-up. They need something more within them. So I would say there is always that push and pull, and like with balance, we don't want it always to just be number goes up, number goes down. We want it to feel like something is changing with the hero that makes them better or worse.
Yeah, makes total sense. Okay. I guess if you're good to go, we can jump into Overwatch here.
Let's do it.
What I'll do is I will stream through Discord here so you can see on my end. I'm having a bit of a problem with your face cam staying... Yeah, it disappears whenever I go into Overwatch. So I'm going to have to invisible you, sadly. So you can probably turn your face cam off. I apologize. But I will still hear I will still hear your resounding voice being played. And then I will stream through Discord so you don't have to deal with the stream delay here.
Sweet, sounds good.
And as I said, I'd like to just go through each character and specifically focus on the newer perks, because obviously that's the spicy stuff, but also that's probably, I assume, the stuff that you had a little bit more to do with in terms of the development as well, if that works for you. Okay, let's start with D.Va here. So big one with D.Va was rockets are gone, and then we're moving in towards precision fusion. So talk to me about the transition there, the logic behind it. Just, I guess, break down that process for you and what you were trying to aim with this perk.
Yeah, so heavy rockets as a perk, we felt like never really hit the mark. I think it did hit the mark at the very end. Like, we buffed it going into, I think it was season 17 or something like that, being like, hey, let's make this better, but we knew it was kind of going to be on the way out. And then people actually started resonating with it once it became much stronger, which makes sense. But with this perk, the thing that we were trying to do is we're trying to find a way to make her so that if she is stuck in that like sort of like middle ground area, then she has some form of option, right? Like, sometimes you don't want to just be absorbing damage. You don't have your boosters on cooldown. You don't want to go aggressive. It's not the right time. This gives you a better choice to like poke away, but also if they're at that, like they're running away from you, you have a more consistent option.
Okay, makes sense. It feels like a contrast between I'm more effective up close versus I'm more effective a little bit further away. And to be fair, I definitely think being up close was not really ever a weakness of D.Va. I found heavy rockets to be very useful versus some of the May Reaper and so on matchups. But this also does the exact same thing. It makes you a lot better versus the Mei Reaper matchup, but allows you to kind of function at more ranges. Was that the intention?
100%. Yeah, that's the intention. And like with every single decision here with like Major Perk, right? We knew that we liked the shield system. We were like, okay, well, we generally like to have two different ideas within the choices, right? One is an offensive option, one is a defensive option, or like obviously there's a million different combinations that you can think. But we don't like the major perks or even the minor perks feeling like they're accomplishing the same thing.
Makes sense. Okay, sounds good. Obviously, we're going to have to kind of cherry pick some of what we're looking at just with the concerns of being respectful of your time. So I think the big one here to look at is going to be the Aftershock, which we briefly touched on, but obviously Power Matrix was 100% pick rate from anybody that was paying attention, even in non-CC matchups. But now that's getting a little bit trickier because now we have Aftershock. I should probably move my face cam here. I'll move it in a second. But enemies hit by a Seismic Slam are slowed by 30% for 1.5 seconds. Now, as you said, this was in the base kit. You and I both remember back in Overwatch League, the alpha playtest. What brought this back?
First of all, Seismic Empowerment just unfortunately never did what we wanted it to do, right? Like it was cool when it paid off, but it was just too inconsistent. So we knew we wanted to get rid of that. So we wanted to add something back into Seismic Slam as a major perk. The slow is something that Doomfist players really liked having back in the day. It allows you to line up your punches. It allows you to follow up with your hand cannon. It gives you a lot of different options with how you're going in. So I think this was kind of almost like a no-brainer, almost a little bit in the sense of like, hey, this is something that we know works with the kit. This makes an interesting choice of another almost offensive style option against the defensive option of Power Matrix of like, hey, if I'm not having issues getting CC'd or slept or all those types of things as Doomfist, maybe I'll want this as it'll be able to pair with the rest of my kit.
Right. So you look at Power Matrix as being more of a solution, one of those dealings with a severe weakness being the term that you used. Whereas if you're not having to struggle with a severe weakness, well, then you should be choosing this. And I noticed that you guys even did that with the way Power Matrix was charged, as it used to be you also generated Empowered Punch faster with Power Matrix. But you guys nerfed that, so it very clearly becomes better when you have CC, but it's not clearly the default choice anymore. Like now Slam is probably the choice if you're not being CC'd all the time. So, okay.
Yeah.
Hazard here. So he's got the, I think, Bone Spur, I forget what it's called here. Bone Spur hits marked targets. And now, I'm not going to lie with you, I almost, practice ranged myself reading the patch notes here and overreacted because I was like, there's no way that this is actually what I think it is. So basically, hitting a target with shots gives it spikes at the point to where eventually you can kind of see the purple little glow there, and that does an extra 40 damage. Obviously, this is not as broken as shoot a target, and then they just die immediately to your slash damage. You actually kind of have to shoot several shots, or maybe just get a couple of big shots to be able to mark them. What was the intention behind this perk?
So when we took out the, what was it called? Off the top, the one that increased the damage against a specific thing, it just felt very difficult to gauge or almost invisible for people. So we wanted to add almost like a combo system within here of like, hey, if you're doing the thing where you're shooting them, you're getting the marked targets, and we intentionally set it in a way where it's like, it's not one shot, it's 2 good shots is going to get you that thing. Then when you follow through, then you have that extra damage. We are just as concerned as you are with this perk in sense of like, we think it's cool. We think it adds a lot to like, the gameplay loop, and like it is transformative in the way that you're going to be slashing at targets, which is what we want. But you add 40 damage to a hero that is on a nice edge with, how he's able to delete targets is definitely something that we're keeping an eye on. Yeah.
Is the actual trigger something to do with the amount of pellets that hit? I don't know if you know the answer for this.
Yes. I don't know exactly the number that we ended up with. I think it's somewhere around like 12 or 15. I don't know off the top of my head, but yes, the number of pellets is the thing, not the amount of damage or anything like that.
Makes sense. Queen. So Queen, I think we already you talked on stream with the dev live stream about Willy Willy and the intention behind that. And I personally like it because it feels like it gives her a little bit more range, which I feel like is a kind of a nice contrast with Savage Satiation, which is cool. But the one I want to talk about here is Rampant Charge, because it's crazy. It's insane. Now, it felt like one of those severe weakness moments. It felt like, where it felt so incredibly easy sometimes to shut down the ultimate. What was the intention behind this minor perk?
This perk actually started with I think Unstoppable would be a really cool thing to have on Queen in her role. It's something that players want. It sucks getting booped or a javelin throw hits you and you just lose your entire
or even
ultimate.
hindered.
It hindered anything. There's so many things that just stop this huge moment for Queen. So it started with the I want unstoppable, but that wasn't enough for a minor perk. It just wasn't interesting enough. It didn't come into play enough of like, hey, if those things didn't happen, then this was kind of just a wasted minor perk. So we were like, what can we give her? And like one of the most fun things that you can ever do as Queen is you run in, you're hitting your cooldowns, you do that kind of stuff, you see the moment, you line it up, you shoot it, and then you just don't have cooldowns to press after that, and you're just kind of like stuck in that limbo. So this is trying to lean into that. I think the biggest offender with this minor perk that's going to cause the issues is the commanding shout, right? Like that extra overhealth that you can like layer on top. You're never going to die as long as you hit the right number of targets. So this is something that we could see maybe if it does end up becoming a problem. It doesn't give you all your cooldowns. It's some
That's what I was gonna say. You don't have to give you all your cooldowns. I mean, even just Carnage or what is it? Jagged Blade would be good. But yeah, I mean, it definitely makes sense. I mean, it's playmaking. It's fun. Makes total sense.
In general as well, it's important that like ultimate perks, they need to feel really impactful, because this is something that you might only do like 2-3 times in a match. It doesn't feel good if you pick this perk and it doesn't. I know people who have said, I will never pick an ultimate perk just because I don't think it. I would rather just do the thing throughout the entirety of the match rather than this one moment.
I remember talking with Alec about this back in February, and he said how I think you guys had at one point considered even doing ultimate only perks, just because like having its own subset, because it feels so strange to have, like you said, a perk that only comes up a few times, and then you have to make it. Now, we're going to be getting to that a little bit later from now. But yeah, it just feels very awkward to do that. But it definitely feels enough to justify the perk slot here. Now, Mauga. This one's hard to nail down. But this one essentially is using your primary fire. You set people on fire from range, and that gives you overhealth. Now, I believe it still has it just contributes to your overhealth ceiling. Mauga has a lot of weird number things. And crucially, using that with Firewalker does not actually proc it. It actually has to be your primary fire. So what was the intention behind Pyromaniac?
So I wanted to give you a reason to not just shoot the tank. The best way to stay alive is to shoot the tank. Like that's the number one thing about Mauga that a lot of people complain about. The idea of this is like, hey, you light the tank on fire. Actually, maybe you're not going to kill the tank. Maybe it's not bad to like turn on a squishy or turn on someone and just like ignite them. And then you're getting rewarded for that with 50 overhealth as well. So it's leading you to think about this idea of like, hey, maybe I'm not just going to shoot the tank to stay alive this entire time and just do damage that feels like I'm throwing it into the void. I'm just going to like do something else. And very intentional design that it doesn't go with Firewalker. When I first tested this out, it did, and it was broken, as you can imagine, because you're just getting so
run
much
into
overhealth.
people, get overhealth. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's why it's set up this way.
It feels like you could take more like these mid-long trades versus certain squishies without losing quite as bad due to your massive hitbox, because you're like, hey, if I set them on fire, it's decent damage now, but also I get a little bit of sustain through it, which is, I think, probably the best way for Mauga to go. So Orisa will move quickly through, because it's basically just a revert to where she was before, which is she moves at full speed. She doesn't have heat generation with her weapon. Now, I'm going to be honest, Orisa has always been an odd duck for me, because I've always been empathetic to people that hate Orisa, but also every nerf to Orisa generally made her just simpler to play, because it took away the nuance of what Fortify could do. The problem is that Fortify was never used for its nuance. It was just used to live. Now you have an opportunity here to move, shoot, offensive Fortify, I guess. What was the logic behind bringing this one back? Because it felt like a very deliberate design decision, because like, screw Orisa, we just can't fix her, let's just nerf her into the ground. Why back?
It's one of those things of like the other minor perk that it replaced was just giving her more overhealth, which, as you said, is leaning into the parts of the kit that we didn't want to give her, right? It's like, you just press this button and guess what? You're more survivable for the first point, which if you're pressing the button at the right time, it's just always valuable. And it's one of those things of like, it's not changing the way you think about the ability. It's not. It's just like, I'm going to press it, it's going to give me more overhealth. That's great. So it's like trying to move away from those things. As you said, this is more interesting. Hey, I'm going to use my Fortify to go aggressive now, because I'm not having to worry about my heat. I'm not going to be slowed. I can walk at people and all that type of stuff. So now this defensive cooldown has a different way that I can think about it. That's really the direction we're trying to go with this.
Makes sense. Okay. Ramattra. Boy, you guys had a lot of issues with Ram, and ironically, there's actually not as much to talk about with him because his perk changes have been pretty straightforward, mostly just the relentless form. This one felt like we're going to reward people for punching, and that in combination with the internal cooldown with block that's now here, I assume that was probably the intention here.
Yeah, Ram took a couple of hits in this patch. Obviously, we agreed. I 100% agree with the idea of like we don't want him to feel like he can live forever, block forever. The armor bug was really playing into that. So this perk feels like it's going against that theory. But I actually find that the thing that makes this perk interesting is it just allows you to, especially within the ultimate, find a way to keep going and play more aggressive. And it's on elimination, which perks that trigger on elimination are very difficult to find a ton of value from because they don't happen all the time. People
were talking about like, oh, this perk. I'm like, this perk is not going to be as much free value as you think. Like elimination stuff is pretty rough. Like that's hard to get, but yeah, it makes sense. Now, I'm gonna be honest. This is one of the hills I'm gonna die on.
I saw your first video on this one.
I don't like it. I don't like it. But I understand the intention, and I'd love for you to explain your intention because I think your reasoning is good. Talk me through the new Rhine Shield perk.
So the Crusader's Resolve that we replaced, which is the passive healing, the thing that I wasn't in love with this is, I agree with your points that if you use it in the correct way, in the way that you're functioning it, you're getting a lot of healing, you can play it right, and you can help yourself. But I felt very unintentional for the way that most people are playing it. They're just, hey, when I'm shielding, I'm just healing myself. And that kind of feels bad as, it's not changing the way you really think about it for most players. So the idea of this perk was to be like, okay, now you can be more deliberate with how you do, like when you use charge, right? I can use my shield, I can take a ton of shield damage. Now I can pin to get out, pin to go in, pin to reposition, and then I'm going to get that shield back. If you get the regen of the shield because you take enough time with it and you pin, you can get like 1,000 shield from it. And that's the idea of what we're trying to go.
And I believe it also, it's the same thing with the Sigma shield. I believe it skips the delay between shielding again. I might be wrong with that. But I think I think I can shield. Oh no, it doesn't. But it does start to regenerate it immediately, even when your shield breaks. But yeah, I mean, I get the idea. It's basically I can use my pin to regenerate shield, not just to move around. My difficulty with it is that I've always found shield to be the least interesting aspect of Ryan's kit. And the way my argument would be, hey, listen, remember what you said about the Tracer melee perk being not really exploited, but maybe higher level players will use it. I'm just saying, if Tracer can have one of those perks, maybe Ryan should be able to have one too. I'm running up the flagpole. We'll see who salutes,
Hey, and I wanted to keep it clear, like, all these perks, like, everything gets banked. Everything is always potential to come back. There's a lot of perks that some people are like, I really miss this.
Sure.
There's no way. We're not saying that these perks are always going to stay or that things aren't going to come back.
Sure. Now, this one's cool, which was every enemy you hit with Fire Strike, you gain 2 seconds of 25% increased attack speed. So hitting a Fire Strike, we get this new meter in the middle of our screen. And that just gives me more attack speed with everything I do. Fire strikes, swings, shatter, everything. What was the intention here?
The idea of this is to reward you for hitting the fire strikes, right? So it's like there can be situations like sometimes the way that you think about fire strikes is you're just like, I'm throwing them off cooldown. It's extra damage. Obviously, I'm going for snipe. But now this is like, hey, maybe I'm going to save my fire strikes until the tank gets in my face. And now when the tank's in my face, that's a guaranteed 2 seconds. If I line that up with someone else, that's 4 seconds of attack speed I can now swing with of attack speed. So it's like changing the way that you think about your fire strikes and giving you a different reason to maybe instead of just shoot it at one person, you're trying to line it up and sort of lead to that big moment of like, hey, now I'm empowered and I can walk in.
There's a weird moment as well when we talk about severe weakness, and this is going to sound really strange. I think Ryan's frontline trading is basically exclusively shield focused, right? Versus characters like Ramattra, Orisa, Mauga, and so on. There are moments where I wonder, like with perks like these, if he's actually going to be able to actually trade with the frontline effectively versus some of those characters. Like maybe there's a world, I don't know. But yeah, I like this perk. Okay, so Roadhog, we probably ironically could talk all day about Roadhog, but we could also just quickly touch on Roadhog. You reverted him. I like the revert. He's kind of trash right now, but I don't care. You're not allowed to say you don't care because, you work for Blizzard, so I can say it. But the idea was, hey, we have more mid-range pressure. I think from what I understand, it was relatively positively received from the Hog community, obviously outside the fact that he's kind of bad right now. So I guess we'll focus on the perks. So Shrapnel Launcher here. Tightens your alt fire and gives you a little bit more range. Was this just, hey, we want this gun to feel like it used to? Kind of a moment?
Well, this is actually going further than the way it used to. This is more like, hey, I'm actually not even able to get close to people. Like, this is like, they're too far away. It feels like they're in this like middle ground where like the pellet spread is just too big. I can't get into that perfect sweet spot. This is an option of like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this. Let me do this. You're playing against a Sigma. I don't have to get that close to the shield, or I'm playing against these players. I can snipe them from further away.
Does pulled pork kind of complement that in a weird way, like where it's more of like the ranged poke option as opposed to invigorate?
Yeah, and both of these perks and the rework in general is trying to just make him better in a situation where it's like with the trap, he just felt like he had to keep flanking, keep walking around, or just keep throwing the trap at his feet and then hope he hit the hook, right? So this is trying to give him at least some more options to be survivable and like throw hooks from further away, and you're not just playing this like run around, not really tank style. Or Roadhog.
Sure. It was a good. Yeah, go ahead.
I do want to say we understand that Roadhog is in a really tough spot right now. There are changes coming out later today that will be buffing him a little bit to try and get him into a space, because honestly his damage was just at a place that it shouldn't be.
Yeah. I will not say anything, otherwise I will get in trouble. Okay, Sigma. This was a replacement to the stun perk on Accretion, which was cool, but really bad in comparison to the other one. And that was a restoration to your shield based off of the percentage of damage that you're doing. And crucially, I don't have the perk because I'm dumb, but you can actually regenerate shield while it's recalled even faster, I believe. So this was, I assume, just you wanted some competition for the minor perk.
Yeah, the other minor perk is really good. Kinetic Cycle, the ability to reduce Accretion's cooldown. It felt like both the minor perks were kind of based around Accretion, and the distance one is cool, but it's just like, it came into play so infrequently that it didn't feel like it was just that valuable. So I wanted to come up with an option of like, hey, this is the most classic Sigma style that you'll ever have, where you're standing behind your shield, you're doing a ton of damage, and this is rewarding you for doing that damage, keeping your shield a little bit more active, and it works in both states. We originally had it where it's like, it's only when it's out, but like it was just really difficult to say like keep it out and then do damage against like high damage compositions. So
yeah, it's not intuitive with how you play Sigma for sure.
Exactly.
Makes total sense. Yeah. Okay. This one is weird. This one is weird.
Yeah.
So everybody got this one wrong of what we were, because we read the patch notes, right? And we were like, oh, wow, that's weird. I'm going to throw barrier in my backline. Bizarre. But that's not how it works at all. It basically just means that you don't get CC'd on your dive.
Kind of.
Okay, talk me through this. What was the intention with this one? What was the idea and the thought process of this one?
The idea of this was the idea that when you're jumping, you have a little bit more control over where it's going to end up. If I'm going to jump and strafe this way, I can throw my barrier that way and follow it in. If I am jumping towards a brig, then I have some option to be able to throw it earlier. I think when everyone first saw it, they were like, NFL quarterback, I'm about to throw this thing across the map. So everyone did the same thing. They tossed it the first time and it just like limply fell in front of them. And it's actually very intentional why it's at that distance. So I actually originally started with it being like, it was kind of a long toss, and you would like toss it along the distance of the way you jumped. But what ended up happening is a lot of people ended up, they're in a battle, they're zapping people just like you are, and they press E and it launches across the map. And you're like, that's never what I wanted, right? I only wanted, so it's actually designed to go pretty much to the edge. You'll be at the edge if you toss it just in front of you. And now it attributes your momentum with it. So as you're jumping, it will follow your jump and it'll land hopefully where you want it to be, while also giving you a little bit of freedom while in the air to throw it right, left, back at your allies.
Sure. My concern has always been Bubble has been more of a skill play choice with Winston, and it felt like he had more tools to do with CC than, say, a Doomfist or Wrecking Ball. And I haven't not seen this utilized enough, so I'm speaking from mostly a point of ignorance here, but it definitely feels like, oh man, is this going to be just impossible to sleep or boop Winston's now?
That is a concern with this perk. We think it adds a pretty cool layer onto like the way that you can use it and the amount of skill expression you can do with it. I'm very curious to see how great Winston players pick this up and if they can use it to the full potential, and if it does end up becoming, a problem where it's, as you said, we're covering up a weakness that shouldn't have been covered up for Winston.
Okay, we'll see. All right, well, moving on here. Wrecking Ball parry perk. We've already talked briefly about it. I guess, is there anything else to add here? Basically, you wanted timing where you could play around CC. It's visibly communicated, anything else really to add?
No, that's really like the main goal we're going for here. It's important to know that like the parry is super useful, but when you press that button isn't always when you just want to parry. You want to be near enemies, to get as much shields as you can. So it's about like this window of time where if you're using it at the right time, you can do something and find like value there. 1.5 seconds feels short, but it also feels long, and that's a number that like we've been sort of toying with a lot since we thought about this.
Sure. Okay, makes sense. I'm moving quickly here just because, for the sake of expediency.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Now this sucker. Okay, we got to talk about this one. This one is a banger, especially considering you guys just fixed the bug recently where she wasn't getting full AoE value for it. This, you hit alt fire per target you hit, you get 3 charge, and this also stops your decay. Now, it's competitive with jump ups, which was also a really good perk situationally. What was the logic and the goal of this perk?
So the first step was to get rid of Graviton Crush. Graviton Crush was a perk that we don't really like for the most part, which is a win more perk. Didn't change the way you use Graviton Surge. You still grab the same number of people. It just took max health off, right? So it was like, didn't feel like it was doing a lot for you. So we wanted to add something that would go up against Spotter. And this is set up in a way where it's actually not going to keep you energy. You're not going to be able to get a ton of energy in a match. This is trying to stop your decay, right? The decay degeneration is 1 second when you hit this instead of the 2 seconds that you would get from a bubble. And it only gives you 3. So you're only really going to be able to get it up or keep it up if you're hitting 1 to 2 targets pretty consistently. So Zarya's never had an ability to keep her energy up other than her bubbles. So trying to find a way to give her that without making it feel oppressive, and she just ends up on 100 energy all the time.
Yeah, makes sense. We'll keep going here. Ashe, manual dynamite. I coached Ashe yesterday, and a Masters Ashe player, and it was really fun to watch him utilize this perk. And some people are saying, "Oh, it just makes dynamite easy to use." Yeah, there's an argument there, but it was actually interesting to watch how it changed how dynamite was used. Because in the hands of a Masters player, the way that they were using dynamite was just really, they'd throw it at an angle and look away, or they'd throw it at close point blank range, or they'd throw it and then they LOS and then detonate it from behind a wall. There's all these like little nuances that weren't there previously with dynamite. I assume that was probably the intention behind this change.
Yeah, that's a lot of what we were going for. Obviously, it's a nice accessibility perk if someone's like, I just can't shoot the dynamite. But that's not really where the strength of this perk lies if you're a great Ashe player. As you said, your ability to throw it, keep shooting, your ability to throw it around corners that potentially are really difficult to shoot it at, the ability to detonate it in the middle of a fight, especially because there is that half-second delay. There's this idea of like, it's not just free. It's not just, it blows up exactly where you want it. It's now a timing check as well of like, you throw it and now you have to figure out when you want to start triggering it, and enemies can see that as well.
Makes sense. Okay. This is one of the big ones.
Yeah.
Okay. This is crazy. We get a nade reset. I'm demonstrating it without the perk. I do that way too often. Basically, you're getting a reset of your nade anytime that you change form, including your ultimate. Now, to sing your praises, it's really nice for mobility. It's really nice for moving around. Nade is, I think, by far the most fun aspect of Bastion's kit, and it replaced a rather underperforming minor perk, which, by the way, I want to compliment you and the team off of that. You guys, I think, replaced all of the perks that I would have liked to replace. So that's only my perspective. I'm not saying my perspective is accurate. I have my own biases, of course. But from what I saw, I felt like you guys definitely had a good read of what perks were either underperforming or just weren't that interesting. So talk me through the intentions of this perk then. Now that I've souped you up, talk me through
oh god, now there's so much pressure. So to exactly what you said, like the mobility perk was cool in like what you could do with it, but it was a little goofy seeing Bastion just like fly so far away, and also it just felt like it wasn't utilized correctly in the way that it should be, right? The grenade is the big damage punch for Bastion that really helps secure kills outside of being able to just like shoot a tank from like super close range. So the idea of this is to lean into your grenades are super important. and you can use them more. You can use one for mobility and then transform, and then you have another one to be able to do the damage that you wanted. So if you're cycling your abilities correctly, you can get a ton of value out of this perk. And it is definitely scary in the fact that it's giving, once again, a full cooldown refresh. But Bastion is a hero that has struggled for the longest time. I'm curious to see how effective this is truly going to be, and what the potential, like the ceiling of the potential for this is.
Yeah, and there is an argument there, again, to kind of go back to what we were saying about the Tracer perk, where I feel like this will be exploited more by higher level players, which is not a bad thing. Like, everyone looks at Bastion, it's like, okay, this is where the real strength is, right? But in reality, it's like, as you get better, your nade is how you win duels, right? And so it's not a bad thing when a perk is going to be more exploited by higher level players. It doesn't mean that's perfect, but it does mean that it's just not immediately all the bronze players are going to climb the gold just shooting nades at the enemy tank, This one's fun. This one's real fun. This one just got patched because there was that one tap bug with the fan at the primary fire.
Yeah.
This one...
it broke everything for a little bit. The internet was upset, but it should be fixed now.
So, sniper Cassidy with a little bit of burn. And that can be reset by here. Talk me through this one.
So, we weren't ever super happy with the fan the hammer perk. The way what it was doing, it was just kind of gave it crits if you were like, that's how most people just use it. So it didn't feel like it was doing what we wanted. So we wanted to get rid of that one. And we sort of like went back to the drawing board. We're like, well, what if we change fan the hammer? For the players that don't like using fan the hammer, they don't use it consistently. Let's give them an option of something else to do. What is the opposite of what fan the hammer does? A more long range shot. And it's interesting in what it changes the way that you sort of enter fights, or the way that you position going into fights. So we wanted something that felt interesting to use, gave you an extra damage option, and now you can combo your damage off. You take that snipe shot, then you follow up with the left click. You can do way more damage, and your ability to sort of really delete someone from the game can go higher, which is what Cassidy is good at if you can hit your shots. Sure.
I think, was the burn effect added to prevent one-shot concerns or burst damage concerns?
Yeah, so it originally just added more damage to it, and it was frustrating to play into, right? Like, or sometimes you just disappeared. It also felt like you got hit by a Widowmaker. So the bleed is giving players a little bit more time to react.
Yeah, makes total sense. Okay, sounds good. This is not really up your wheelhouse, but it definitely feels like we're at a crossroads with Cassidy's identity again. Like, what range is this character supposed to operate at? And I think with the recent nerf to 250, and then obviously buffing his fall off several months ago, it definitely feels like he's kind of leaning more into that mid to long range hit scan. Now, obviously, full salvo, more damage, better. I remember talking with you guys, and you'd said the intention was we want to carpet bomb sticky bombs, but when it does no damage, it's just not good. So that was changed. Yeah. If you hit all the stickies, it's better. But Focus Rush is the real interesting one in the new one, which means we're moving faster and we're reaching further with our beam.
Yeah.
So Pursuit, I assume.
Yeah, Pursuit is really the big situation here for Echo, because it's one of the things that you hear a lot of Echo players say is it's like, hey, I can get people low, but like my ability to get aggressive and be able to actually follow that up with beam can sometimes be really difficult, especially against backliners, especially with how fast the game moves with so many of these characters at this point. So kind of giving Echo the option for those tools to be able to do. Echo actually is one of the unique cases as well that we try and avoid, which is having two perks that combo into the same thing, that kind of like double surge the power of it, right? So as you said, Focus Rush and High Beams are going to function very well together. And there is a little bit of concern of like, this just becomes the right path to go down. Right. But that's one of the reasons we also looked at Full Salvo. It's like, hey, people aren't vibing with this perk. The damage nerf feels bad to play with. What happens if we take that out and see where it truly lands?
Makes sense. Okay, sounds good. Freya, you hit her with hammers, but they're actually kind of interesting because it's intended, I feel like, to. And by the way, it gets annoying with me feeding you the answers. I enjoy trying to guess what the intention was. So I apologize if that gets annoying.
Hey, you're almost always right. So I like hearing
so this felt like, okay, we don't want to bolt spam. And obviously the crit perk, which was you can see people behind walls under 50%, is just way too strong for Peeker's advantage. So with Hunter's Instinct, it's basically you can do it briefly, but you have to hit them first. And it's only going to last for a little bit of time. So it's like the same idea, but a little bit toned down.
Yeah, that's that minor perk where you saw everyone below 50% was just like obviously just
crazy.
very good. Very crazy for
S-tier.
what you're able to do. But we like the idea of it, of like Freya being able to see targets through walls, especially, it fits within the bounty hunting theme. It's something that, helps her find the enemies once you've done it. So we wanted to make it feel more intentional of like, hey, if you hit someone, then you get the value. And that feels in a more balanced and fair state.
Sure. And then quick dash distance, same kind of thing where, lateral mobility with Frey was never like an overwhelming strength. And so now you can actually like use this to disengage more consistently, more on par with, I guess, a Hanzo's lunge, maybe a little bit further. I assume that was the intention as well.
It's just giving you a little bit more mobility, or people that just want to go further with that.
Sure.
And you're right on the major perk. It's just removing the bolt spam. You guys see the win rates now. Like people will consider Freya to be incredibly strong, but she's actually very weak in the DPS category. So we're trying to find ways to put her into a more balanced state where her win rate can go up. But a lot of the frustrations with Freya are based around that bolt spam. It feels like I'm getting hit by a brick every, 3 seconds, right? So we're trying to, that perk was really feeding into that effect. So this is giving a more defensive option and trying to move away from that bolt spam.
Makes total sense. Okay, and I'm glad to see the slow perk was also removed because it was never going to be picked because the crit perk was better, but it was sure annoying when it was picked. All right, Genji time. So Genji, he's got blade twisting, which I want to touch on really quickly because it felt like a much more consistent version of the previous iteration because it doesn't rely off of an elimination to get the 25 additional damage, which I think is great.
Yeah, that was the intention. It's cool to do the damage, but it just felt weird that it was so hard to trigger.
Right. A lot of those elimination ones felt like the ultimate perk where it might only happen a couple of times, but unlike the ultimate perk, you can't really plan on it happening. It just felt like the worst of both worlds. Swift cuts, reducing the cooldown of Swift Strike by 3 seconds. Now, this one definitely feels like it changes a little bit about how you might take engagements. If engagements start to go south, you start utilizing more melee combos, because if the reality is if you're using your combos of your shurikens into melee, you're slowing down your DPS because just spamming shurikens is much more DPS, but if you're using melee, you're slowing it down. But if you're using melee, you're getting a dash back faster, which means you can get out. I assume it was to play a little bit of the mind games of how you'd use a Genji combo.
Yeah, it's kind of in the same vein as the Tracer one, where it's like melee is a really important part of the way you should play Genji. Like that extra 40 damage, as you said, is a DPS decrease, but the guaranteed 40 damage is super nice, right? So finding a way for him to be able to reset his Swift Strike outside of just getting the eliminations, this feels like a very intentional middle ground where it's like you need 2 melees. Like how often are you really getting 2 melees in the duration of like your Swift Strike going down? Maybe you can start weaving it in. Maybe you start thinking about it. Maybe you just go for that 1 slash. So now it's a 4-second cooldown instead of a 7-second cooldown. So it was funny seeing the reaction of everyone when they first saw this perk. People were like, this is the most game-breaking perk we've seen since the beginning of time. And I was like, whoa, I don't think it's that great. It's useful, but it is niche in the way that it can be used.
I think it's still probably pretty darn good for a minor perk, but it's definitely, I would not even put it in the top 10 of the new perks in terms of strength.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Hanzo. So I sympathize with you so much because you guys have worked so hard on this character. And honestly, I will say it's better. It just keeps getting better. Sonic Disruption seems like maybe a little weird, but it's cool. It definitely changes some decision making here. Swift Lunge, it's like, hey, we can actually move around a little bit. That's pretty cool. Like a little bit more mobility here and there, a little bit more consistent than the wall climb one, which felt a little bit niche to use. Dragon Fury got buffed to a little bit of a longer duration, so you have a little bit more attack, so you can actually feel it a little bit more. And then now the Scatter Arrows perk actually feels a little bit more functional rather than almost a net nerf. So it just felt like a lot of little tweaks,
That was kind of it, just trying to make these perks, because we kind of liked the idea of what a lot of them were doing. It just didn't feel like the triggers or the way that those conditions were met felt good, right? So it's like the wall climb reducing your lunge. It just felt really difficult to use. Like how often are you just like jumping off of a wall, climbing a little bit and jumping off it? Like I'm sure there was great values that you could get from it, but most people didn't resonate with that, right? So this is more, it's less intentional, but it feels good to hit arrows and then get value from it. And it does go down with your storm arrows as well, and your even with the scatter arrows.
So you can just immediately,
if you're hitting shots, you can lunge around a lot, which, Hanzo having more mobility on lunge isn't that bad. And then on scatter arrows, I feel like as a miner, it just never really hit the mark. It didn't feel like it was ever increasing your damage or it was easy to use. So this is a scary one to do, but I wanted to go back to where it once was, right? Of like, when you think of scatter arrows, if you hit all 5 of those scatter arrows off the ground, it's going to do a lot of damage. It does 166% damage. If you headshot someone with the storm arrow, it does 150% damage. So it's like giving you a reason to shoot at the ground. It is more efficient, but it changes the way that you think about it.
Sure, makes sense. Junkrat. Now, this one I think was really, really thoughtful. The minor perk specifically. I think there's been a concern a little bit with how often are you getting killing blows with concussive mine.
Yes.
But the intention was, if you're getting in there and you're getting aggressive, you deserve to get more value for what you're doing, like even more. I assume that was the intention. Do more, just more damage, more killing. I mean,
you like jumping in with your mine, then you have one to get out. Or you want to get aggressive with your mine, we're rewarding you for being able to do that. As I said, it's hard to get value out of killing blows. Out of eliminations. Getting a killing blow with it is even more difficult. But we think that it makes sense in the sense of Junkrat. It's a big damage chunk. It does 120 damage, I believe, off the top of my head. So being able to sort of weed that in and get more mines feels really good to do.
Makes sense. Major perk here, which is Bon Voyage. Basically, you attack faster for the few seconds after you launch yourself with a mine. Was this just more of a rollout, kill people perk?
Kind of in situations where you're not able to just like jump into their face, where you're in more of a poke-oriented setup, you can just you can use these mines on yourself to be able to just increase your throughput damage, right? It changes the way that you think about your mine of like, hey, you should be using it on yourself more. It kind of goes against what the miner does of like, use the miner against other people. This one is use the miner on yourself to give yourself something else. Makes
sense. Okay. Now, bless you, because I hated the May perks, all of them. I'm going to ignore the major perks because it's okay. We can choose our battles here. But the minor perks, I've enjoyed playing with so much better. But this is going to be, I don't just want to talk about the minor perks here because, we have, let's talk about them really quick. So you have double jump allows you to consume some of your wall cooldown to launch yourself in the air. So you can either do this, which puts part of your wall on cooldown, or you can wall yourself. And jumping gives you a little bit more verticality. I assume just, hey, it's a little bit of verticality without making her strong at mobility.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the primary idea. It's like, it'll get you a little bit higher. There are ledges that you wouldn't have been able to get to using your wall, but obviously it's very personal in the way that it's used. It's also taking less cooldown. So it's essentially giving you more options of what you can do with the ice wall in situations where you want to have more mobility, you want to have more verticality.
Sure, makes total sense. And then the other one was the Blizzard one, which just gives you a little bit more variety with how you might want to consider using Blizzard. Hey, I can use it to help myself or help my team or move around quickly, or if I miss the Blizzard, I can still use it for various reasons. I assume that was the intention as well.
Yeah, in situations where you throw it on the ground and everyone runs away, you're like, well, that sucks. This gives you an idea of like, hey, now as you said, you can get healed by it. You can do more things in it. It gives more options. I know this is something that you talked about way back in early perks. I watched that video. I remember I thought it was a great idea, and it's something that our team wanted to pursue.
Cool. Okay. I guess this is maybe not the best example, but we'll talk a little bit more with Reaper as well. It feels like for some characters, and this really is where I want to go back into the whole base kit versus perks. Some characters like Mei, you talk about the double jump. It's a relatively small thing. There's a little bit of a downside where you lose some of your wall cooldown. We're looking at Reaper's perks here with Shadow Blink, which is... It's a good perk, but there is a definite and clear trade-off where it's like, okay, I can go faster, but I have a reduced range. Now, Reaper, from what we're seeing from the stats, is doing quite well. He's not underperforming by any means. But there's a pretty clear gap between somebody like a Mei perk and a Reaper perk. Mei's perks are much, much worse. Like her perks, I didn't like the minor perks, but I think the slow and alt fire was ridiculously strong, right? And I think even Reaper's perk change here is probably at best a neutral change, whereas a lot of other characters who got significant buffs to their perk sets. And this kind of brings a question where it's like, it feels like with certain characters, they get massive buffs over their perks. and certain characters get little tweaks, little adjustments, or even trade-offs. I think one of the things that Alec had talked about early on is that, at least initially, there was a question of like, should we be introducing trade-offs with a lot of these perks? And some characters still have those trade-offs. Some characters don't. Some characters just get free real estate. And this is kind of like, maybe this is not a good point to really delve too deeply into that, because I'm not sure how much of this is your decision making. But it is difficult sometimes to understand why certain perks have downsides and trade-offs, and why certain perks are just completely free value.
So one of the reasons this one has a big trade-off is because of how impactful it changes the way that this works. Because it actually, as you can tell, your ability to fade out is very quick, right? So this actually changes the way of like maybe Wraith forming in and then you can Shadow Blink out is super valuable. And so it's like, is the 25% range, especially considering you're losing 25% of your cooldown, is that a huge cost? Like it kind of goes, this negative is almost in there for the thematic of it all. Of it's like, if you're able to still go the full distance, think about how quickly you'd be able to move around the maps. And
yeah, true.
We do try and avoid these like Kiss Curse is what we used to call them. We had a ton of them in season 15. And as you've seen, we're filtering a lot of them out because people are like, I don't like losing something for this. But because of how transformative this minor perk actually is, we felt that it was actually kind of necessary to have some form of like hindrance to it.
So I'm taking notes here. So basically the concept is that with you guys are moving away from trade-offs generally, but in some perks that are so transformative that the trade-off feels like a necessity.
Yeah, the trade-off is almost a part of the transformation, if that makes sense.
I understand. We'll touch briefly on Pharah. Basically, it's allows for situational combos, because if you can land the conk, it's going to change some of the breakpoints with how you do things, and it may even change how you use conk a little bit. You took away the suck one, which was, I mean, really, really strong, to be very clear, and replaced it with this one, which is just going to be a little bit more offensively hitting direct rockets. I assume it's probably pretty straightforward here. Yeah,
it's pretty straightforward. The ability to see people with vision as well, like it outside of the times that you're even following up with the damage, your ability to sort of like poke that into a group of enemies, and now you're getting the knockback, but hey, you also can see them. So this allows you to position in a different way, knowing where people are going, where they're looking, all that type of stuff. So it's giving it kind of like an information tool outside of just like mobility. So that's where it's transforming. And we got rid of the concussion and implosion because it was fun to use. You did some cool stuff with the barrage and the conk, but it was kind of just doing too much, if you know what I mean. Like, it was a very weird thing to be getting pulled in, a mini grab on cooldown for Pharah. It felt like it had its time. It had run its course, so we wanted to get rid of that in this one.
Makes sense. Sojourn, she is getting the slow with the disruptor shot on her minor perk, which that's kind of a little bit of what it used to be back in the alpha, which I believe was taken out, one of the season 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's been pretty early on in Overwatch 2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and then now we replaced the stick for charge, where now instead we're getting slide for charge. And that's, I guess, just, hey, do I want to use this offensively, or do I want to use this to get out?
It's a way to stop degeneration as well. Like, you can use your mobility tool to stop degeneration. It allows you to come into fights with a little bit more energy in situations where, you know, it's difficult to deal with charge, but you don't need your mobility. You can hold on to it. I think it also creates an interesting choice against of like, dual thrusters is very mobility focused. So this is kind of like, do I need mobility? Yes or no, right? And it's really important as well when we were making these perks, because we made this mistake super early on in season 15. There should always be a choice between the two perks that doesn't feel like it's a hindrance to your gameplay. Like, so dual thrusters, there needs to be a perk against that is just, it's going to be good to pick, right? It's not going to feel bad because there are situations you don't want dual thrusters. And, you know, the best example of this is Sombra. When season 15 first came out, people like,
you're right. Yes.
Just didn't pick
you
their
weren't even
main
choosing a
perks.
perk. Yes.
Yeah, because it's like, I didn't want to be able to heal my allies because that just got in the way. And then I didn't want to reduce my hack range, right? So it's like, well, there are two things that I don't want in my kit. So with these major and minor perks, there should always be a choice that is like, this is a fine choice, regardless of what it's doing, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, it's like, hey, even if I don't care about generating charge, it doesn't hinder my gameplay. Whereas before, it's like because dual thrusters does change how your slide works, you might not want to pick that and then go, well, crud, I don't want the other one either. So it's like, yeah, okay, it makes total sense. Do you feel with her? No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say that was actually an issue with Sticky Plasma because Sticky Plasma was useful, but it actually did less damage to the person it was stuck to. Yeah. So it's like, if you stuck them, it's like sometimes that was worse for you. So it's like there was this trade-off in the choices being made.
Yeah, makes total sense. Do you feel that with her minor perks that is there going to be a big discrepancy between what's picked at the higher ranks and what's picked in the lower ranks?
Yeah, the minor perk, ultimate perk for Sojourn is like, as you said, really strong. Its ability to sort of like change the breakpoints and the threshold of the ultimate is very high. This is why we wanted to have deceleration field come in, and it's definitely useful. It's going to offer a lot. But it's kind of in this situation where, you've seen the win rates now. Sojourn is also, just like in the Freya thing, considered very, one of the strongest DPS in the game, but the win rates actually don't reflect that. So we don't want to take this thing away and like heavily nerf Sojourn if we don't feel like we can just give her a better option with the minor. So I'm not saying we won't change it in the future. Like if it does continue to be an issue, it still becomes like the automated pick, then I could see us nerfing that perk in the future.
Yeah, makes sense. I feel she's just one of those characters that's very difficult to balance in her current state. So, okay, Soldier. So you took away the heal station perk. It's a bit of an awkward cooldown. I was okay with that perk because it did work on you, which I think made it a bit underrated. But you replace it with something that allows you to just pretty much spam your rockets. Yeah. Which there's definitely an opportunity cost to this, and this isn't free value because you do have to stop shooting to use them, which your mileage may vary with that. Talk me through the development of this perk.
This one was just like, it's really fun to shoot your rockets when you're in this state. Sometimes that burst damage is the thing that you need, right, to finish someone off, right? You're doing that consistent damage, but sometimes it's just not enough. So this is like, hey, in these situations, if someone's right there and you're confident that you can hit the rockets, now you can start pumping out even more damage, right, and doing more. So it's just giving you more options with the tactical visor, and it's just fun to shoot a ton of rockets in the theme.
It is true
of the ultimate.
It is. This next major, I think you guys finally got it. I was so happy to see it. We finally got the sweet spot for stim pack. And now there's a real choice about which major perk. I just coached Soldier 2 days ago, and we had a really nice discussion about which perk makes the most sense in which situation. We load up a competitive game, doing some live coaching. Circuit Royale is chosen. I'm like, buddy, we're picking stim pack.
We're going the distance.
we ain't angling on this map, so guess what? And we got some mileage out of it, right? Like we got some better tank pressure. We were able to duel some snipers a little bit more effectively because of the attack speed. We were still able to reposition a little bit because you can use it on the move. I feel like the intention here is like we want to allow for a more offensive option versus a more mobility option, and I think you guys nailed it.
Yeah, the idea of stim pack was always really cool to us. Like it's kind of like they had the animation ready. You stab yourself, you do this cool thing. But we were so conservative when like season 15 was around. We're like, we can't just give him 20% attack speed for 5 seconds, right? Like there needs to be a cost, and I think there was just too negative. Anti-heal was insane. It just made it really unusable. Even at the situation of like, it was just doing damage to you, you're giving up your healing cooldown. So it's like you're doing damage to yourself in the situation where you want your healing cooldown. We kind of ripped the band-aid off with this. Curious to see how it feels. Like, obviously we nerfed the healing down a little bit. It doesn't heal up your allies anymore. And that's actually why we had to get rid of the other minor perk. Because if you pick that minor perk, then you pick stim pack. The perk essentially doesn't offer anything, so that needed to leave if stim pack
makes total sense. That makes total sense. Now, if only we had a Sombra main in Twitch chat, maybe we could have some opinions.
I haven't seen any around recently,
I think nothing really to say about the minor perks. I think they're fine. And then this is the great one. So hacked health packs provided 50 over health with Sombra, which basically allows you to. Well, I'll go demonstrate it really fast here. Now, people may not know this, but I actually have, I think the highest level of any hero is on Sombra since Overwatch 2. I have a lot of hours
really?
on Sombra. Yeah. Because I had to listen, when you've reworked this character so many times that I've every single time had to go and train the iteration, so I could coach the character. This gives you decaying over health, but it doesn't decay it right away off of your hacked health packs. And I got to play a little bit with this yesterday, and it just allowed me to... I still had to be a little bit on a leash, of course, but it allowed me to duel a little bit more effectively when I was using health packs effectively.
Yeah, and that's the idea of it. The decay's at a pretty intentional rate of it's like 5 seconds, I think, before it starts decaying. We don't want Sombra to just be like, I hacked a health pack in my spawn, and then I'm coming out in your backline with 50 overhealth, right? Like, overhealth is such a valuable thing. You know, Sombra coming out with 275 health is going to be the difference maker in that duel. So, as you said, it's trying to leash Sombra players and leash them to a route, and it's going to reward understanding the map, packing the right health packs, moving around the map, and then being able to get full utility out of this perk.
Makes sense. More of a dualistic perk, maybe isolated targets rather than the virus spread, which is maybe better versus a clump of targets.
Yeah.
Symmetra. Now, this one cracked me up because I was like, somebody was watching OWCS. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but the teleporter range perks seem to be mostly a pro thing. It definitely is something that we saw in lower ranks as well, but it was definitely one of the things that opened up an entire professional meta because you could go so much further. That's now replaced by I guess not replaced, but the photon projector primary fire has been reworked a little bit and moved down to a minor perk. So you can either have more static control or more reach with your primary fire. Talk me through this because Sim got a lot of tweaks. Stuff moved up, moved down, some stuff was replaced.
Yeah, the Symmetra teleporter, as you said, like in OWCS, like when we introduced it in Season 15, we're like, pro players are going to have a field day with this. Like when we added it, and we're like, is this okay to give her 50% more range? Like, you could go so far. And that kind of did come true, but what we found is that most players didn't resonate with it, right? It wasn't a very heavily picked perk. Most players just want that extra turret. So it didn't feel like it was accomplishing what we wanted. While on the other side, the range perk that was functioning as a major, it felt really difficult to understand what the range of the Symmetra was going to be at any given moment in the game. You're playing against her. What is her range? Why is she just turning this corner and now she's beaming me from, 30% further away?
Yeah,
it was like 40%. It was like really far. So it felt really difficult to understand. So we like the idea of getting a little bit more range, but now it's a more static thing of like, hey, you're going to have this
more
range.
Consistent. Yeah, playing into the Symmetra as well versus as playing it. Yeah, that makes total sense to me. And the shield's cool. Like, I think like even the little bit of control that you've got, and crucially choosing which one you want to utilize, it's like, wow, I haven't seen that in 7 years, so holy crap.
When we had the idea of like, what if we make you choose it? I was like, oh god, shield generator, teleporter, like PTSD comes through my mind from back in like 2016, 2017. But like, we like the idea of this because a lot of things for Symmetra players is like, they don't utilize this teleporter as much as they should. They don't use it as effectively as it could be used. So this is giving you a different tool and a different way to use that cooldown if you want to.
Yeah, I'm gonna... cracks me up hearing you say that because it's so true. That plus the teleporter range. I honestly think Symmetra is one of the most misunderstood characters in Overwatch 2. And 100%. Just hearing you say that people don't use teleporter and people don't use the long range teleporter, I'm like, bro, no wonder nobody knows how to play Symmetra, man. That's crazy. All right, Torbjorn. This one's just great. This one's just hilarious. Movement speed. Hello. There you go. Movement speed while you're holding hammer. Now, everyone goes, oh, this is a total meme, right? Well, you could rotate. You can
really
push.
Good.
You can disengage. You could do all sorts of things now, right? And so it's not just a meme. You know, there's all sorts of things you can do with this perk.
Yeah, it is the CS knife. It's like, press 3 to run faster. It's kind of that idea, but it's like, as you said, people are first going to think that's like, oh, you're just going to run at your enemies with it. It's like, that's actually not the best thing to do. It's useful to do with it because it stacks with your overload, but the benefit of it is like you're running back from spawn, you're moving around the map, you're flanking, you're doing that, which Torb is very good at. This is assisting him in those kind of setups. So it's actually very fun to do, but it is incredibly useful.
Yeah. I'd love it. Tracer perk we talked a little bit about already. I'm a big fan. It crucially doesn't over ammo. So it's really the mid-clip stuff, which is crucial because mid-clip trigger discipline, mid-clip blinks, mid-clip movement, it is Tracer. It is the high-level Tracer playstyle, where you're not just standing there and one-clipping people and blinking in, and everything is movement and pausing and dodging and shooting and refilling. And if you're able to exploit that, it could be really useful. Now, the other perk is still really good, so we're going to have to, I think, wait and see with this perk. But I really do like this perk from a design perspective, so big kudos.
Yeah, we're trying to find a minor perk here that's going to make people move away from both of the blink perks, because that's kind of been a default option for a lot of Tracer players for the longest time. The range of the pulse bomb just wasn't, it was nice sometimes, but it just, the effectiveness of it was so random, it felt like. Right. So this is, as you said, this is going to reward players who are able to weave blinks in, get more ammo, increase their throughput DPS if you're playing, in the right ranges and using your K right.
Makes total sense. Venture. We have distance while burrowing perk, which allows you to traverse distances easier, cover more distances as a trade-off versus the other major or minor, which is just good ultimate combos, essentially.
Yeah.
So if we combo that really fast, it's a long distance. And I believe crucially there, so it's a question that I had initially was that the cooldown of drill dash goes on immediately. So like you're not getting punished for a longer drill dash. So look there, it's like it's already being regenerated even as I'm using it. So just basically, I assume the goal is just let's go further with this cooldown.
Let's go further, let's go faster. Like I've always found that the venture of like burrowing and then drill dashing in the ground is so thematic, it's so cool. Like incentivizing people to do that more. It allows you to engage from further away, get further in. It allows you to get out faster, all that type of stuff. It's sort of rewarding you for using your cooldowns effectively, helping you move around the map.
Makes total sense. Now, this one is crazy. I still remember you guys demonstrating this on the dev live stream, and I was like, what am I watching? So this one is, I think, a wait and see. It might be one of those Genji perk moments where everybody freaks out, myself included, and it's not actually that bad. But it might also be kind of crazy that this character can do damage at this range. And there is a trade-off here, of course. But I think even the trade-off has become a little bit weaker because I don't know if you know about this, but I'm pretty sure Covenant Dirt was bugged and it was just fixed with the passive. So long story short, a lot of moving parts to this character. And it's also tricky because not a lot of people play Venture. Very dedicated fan base for a character that I really like playing Venture, but we're gonna have to wait and see. So where was the intention behind Smart Extender, and where are you guys kind of like, what are you guys looking at with this ability? Because it's another ability, which is cool.
Yeah, I talked about this on the dev live stream, but like Venture is like the only hero in the game who has a free button, right? Like usually when we're thinking of like, hey, let's do this cool thing, it's like, where do we put it? Like where does like this button go? So being able to have a free E button felt really like we wanted to lean into this. Let's find a way to like add something to Venture, but we didn't want to increase the damage. Venture's damage is already very high. We don't want to increase the combo potential of being able to execute targets. The range is a limiting factor, but we didn't really like the old major, which was just like, hey, you have more range. That was just not interesting. It just didn't do so. Putting it on a button, it allows you to trigger the passive. It allows you to reload your ammo. It gives you a lot of different options of like, why would I press this button, right? There's a lot of different ways for that. So I'm curious to see how Venture players pick it up. As you said, I think I remember hearing you in your last video say you were going to run outside naked if this wasn't changed in a week.
Look,
I feel like I heard that at some point.
I didn't factor on the Venture player base being so small. Like people don't have good taste apparently. So you know what I'm saying? So
okay.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe I'll just OTP Venture to champion really fast and demonstrate the efficacy of this.
Like it's easy to get to champion. So anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see.
I do want to add a quick comment here with Venture as well, because I've seen a lot of the Venture community talking about it. Like, there was a change to the way that the passive was working. This was accentuated with the major perk of Clobber, I think it's called, where it was, Covered in Dirt, where it was giving you more shields than it was intended. So Venture has been changed in the way that the shields are being generated so that it should give you the right number of shields after each use, not just Covered in Dirt, but like for your burrow, for your drill dash, for your tectonic shock, you should be getting the right amount for each of those.
Yeah, I feel like it was like refreshing like the entirety of your shields that you've generated in the past 5 seconds. So it was like an 80 full heal on every melee or something crazy like that. But
if you're at like 75 max shields, like the game thought you were at 75, but you lost that, but then you triggered your shields with any of your passive gain, it was giving you all that shields, which is obviously just a crazy amount of healing.
Yeah. And if Venture needs help, if that's removed, well, then we can cross the roads when we get there because
100%.
It sucks to be benefiting from a bug. Now, okay, I think this perk was really cool, but I'm okay. This is the real running around naked one here because surely this one's going to get buffed because not the grapple one. The grapple one's cool, but the Venomine one, which basically gives it AoE potential, gives it consistent potential, but I think they like stubbed their toe or something, you know, like it's a very, very little amount of damage. And I empathize. It's like the Hanzo problem. Like, how do you give this character perks without people like, you know, witch hunting you? It's a really cool idea. I think it's great. What were the intentions behind the change of how Venomine was being used to kind of what this is?
Yeah, Venomine in general, as an ability, is like so niche, right? Like people just usually throw it out. We didn't like giving you 2 mines. It just felt like you're putting more things in the world. It didn't change the way you think about it. You're just shooting more of them. And then we increased the damage, but like it still didn't happen. So the intention of this perk is to try and change the way that you think about it, right? So instead of putting it on a corner and hope someone runs into it, now you can put it above a choke, or you can put it behind a thing, and then it's going to shoot them. And it's more about providing vision to you. So it's like, you know how to position, because it can hit multiple targets. It's going to stay there. The enemies are going to have to turn around and look at it, which gives you an advantage in that as well. So you're going to see them. You're going to see them turn around as well. So
it
it's
has
like
the same HP, correct?
It has the same HP. Everything is still the same. The thing that did go down, and you know, this isn't in the tooltip because the tooltip's already really long, but the damage is 25 instead of 75, and that's probably just us being a little too conservative. With it's like, this thing is keep triggering. It can keep hitting enemies from this range. 75 damage just consistently could feel really frustrating. We found that in our early playtest, so that's why it's come down. But it could go up again.
Okay, makes total sense. All right, supports. Ana, boy, she has been all over the place. I think.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe either the strongest or the second strongest or third strongest perk set initially on release. A lot of nerfs, nano nerf, nade nerf, some changes to Groggy, for example, and mostly just repositioning stuff around here. And big one is obviously Speed Serum, which gives you movement speed and the target movement speed. But it's generally feels like a little bit, you have to be a little bit more thoughtful about how you use it, because it's not just, I'm just going to nano my tank and I'm just invulnerable for 3 seconds as well. What was the logic behind this one? This is definitely a throwback one. This is like the Symmetra one. It's like 2016, 2017 all over again.
Yeah, so we wanted to get rid of the double nano perk. Like, obviously, people loved it. It's great to nano yourself and feel powerful, but it was the only major perk that affected an ultimate, and it was still considered one of the strongest perks in the game, just because of like the amount of value that it gave to you. So we wanted to get rid of that. We wanted to put it more in line. I felt like giving the speed back was like a fun little throwback to like what it was. The speed is obviously super valuable. It changes the way of like, who am I going to put this on now? Like, it's better to put it on your Reinhardt now than it was before. It's still really good to put on Genji, but now Genji's getting more. And then the reason it goes on yourself is, well, a lot of the feedback that we got is like, it felt great to give my ally speed, but I felt like I couldn't keep up with them, or it didn't feel like I got anything out of picking this perk, right? Just like helping someone else. So it's like, this speed boost is obviously super nice on Ana, but it's not, you know, game breaking in the sense. It's more of a feedback thing for the Ana player, and allows you to follow in that Reinhardt, move with your team, get value out of this this perk, because as we said, ultimate perks happen so infrequently that it should feel impactful.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, I like it. And then the bouncing nade was just more of like the defensive option. And basically moving it to major perk, because I think you had talked about this on stream. I don't remember, but it was talking about how like the value of bouncing perk a lot of the time wasn't even the splash damage or healing. It was the fact that if you missed your nade, you didn't. You actually hit it anyway. So you'd miss a target with nade and you'd get the purple because it would bounce a second time. And there were, I believe, some concerns about that being so consistently available as a minor perk. I don't remember if I'm putting words in your mouth there, but basically, if you're going to get the bounce value, you got to wait till major perk.
Ana's, let me make sure I'm not misremembering this, the only character that has anti-heal on a basic ability. Like, that's, and it's so strong, right? So it's like, as a minor perk, we're allowing you to do that twice. You can amp heal yourself, you can anti-heal someone. It felt like it was just doing too much for what a minor perk is. It's very transformative, it's super sick, we definitely don't want to get rid of it, but it felt like the minor perk was doing too much, the major perk was doing too much. So flipping these around and changing them, that's kind of why they got chopped and changed in this way, to make it feel like the Ana perks are more in line with you know, other heroes' perks.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, Bap. Bap's another one of those characters, so I think like his perks have just consistently gotten better and better and better. You guys have done a pretty good job with making him feel more up to date in the Overwatch 2 headspace. I really like both of these, honestly. You've got a biotic reloader, which is basically, for those that don't know, it's like the weaving one where you do damage, you get healing value. If you do healing, you get damage value. So if you're really good with your weaving, you don't have to reload as much, which is awesome. Uptime value, right? And then automated healing was really clever because it replaced the extra healing off of lamp. Gee, that's great. With actually, you can actually have some ranged support here. So, I mean, that's not something that BAP can do very easily. Like, ranged support is something that, ironically, that BAP is not all that great at. It's usually, like, very AoE-centric, single target, staying on top of me. And now you've added a little bit of utility to his abilities. And also, I know Alec had talked about this with the original iteration of the window perk that you guys had. It's just cool to see parts of the character's kit that you've never seen before. Like the little turret thing. We don't see that. You know, like we never see that, you know?
That's what we wanted with the ultimate perk. It's like, hey, we had this turret thing that animates and it shoots. That's super sick. Like, the character is Baptiste. He uses gadgets. We have to find a way to pull this in. And it was cool on the ultimate, but it was so niche of like how much value. And you generally, when your ultimate was out, it's not when you needed the healing throughput, right? So it was kind of like we wanted to make it a little bit better in the sense of like, as you said, like Baptiste can't heal people moving super fast, can't heal people in the air very effectively. You got a Pharah, this thing's going to hit them. This is a guaranteed heal from distance. It's going to give you that little bit of extra. And it makes you think about when you're using abilities. Maybe don't use both at the same time. Maybe use one, let the healing triggers go out, throw the next one, all that type of stuff. It works with the ultimate. Gives you a lot of different options in the way that you can weed this in to hopefully make it more functional than the ultimate.
Yeah, makes total sense. Brigitte, combat medic, which is lots of packs. Lots and lots of packs. Now, I want to actually do the thing a little bit backwards here. I want to talk about the major perks first, which was you split Inspiring Strike and Whiplash. And I feel like this was by design to give a small room, congested, brawly option with Whiplash versus I'm covering larger distances, I need this freaking movement speed option. You have to choose depending on the circumstance, correct?
Yeah, 100%.
Whereas before you could basically have both, which was probably a little bit much. Now, again, we'll stick with Inspiring Strike here, which was movement speed. I love it. That was one of the ideas that I was looking for, and we got it. I was thrilled. But now Inspire Healing is instant when you use your bash. What was this intended to accomplish? What's the logic behind this change?
So what a lot of players use their Brig Bash for is to run away, right? So the minor perk was a part of that, and it didn't feel like the shield part was the reason anyone picked the minor perk, right? Their shield going up was like it was nice, but it wasn't like a big part. So I wanted to make it a more interesting choice of like bashing into enemies now actually has a self-preservation choice to it because it heals you as well, right?
Right.
It's giving you that instant healing. It's giving you that effectiveness. Now, if you bash targets and then hit them with the left click immediately, you're getting the inspire, you're getting the upfront healing, you're weaving in your damage. So giving you reasons to change the way that you would think about how you use your shield bash while still giving you the movement speed on the bash, which is something that a lot of people really like.
True. One other thing, too, which makes it even better, is you can proc your inspire and do your bash reset, and then you still have, it doesn't overwrite the previous inspire.
Yeah.
So if you actually swing into bash, you're able to keep the HOT, not just the burst. So yeah, I mean we'll see. I did like the ability to kind of close distances with movement speed, but obviously the really spicy one is combat medic, which is every time you use anything here, you're getting more packs, more charge, more impact on range, essentially. Which again feels like a little bit of a contrast with morale boost, which is kind of the opposite. Do you want to rely more off of your armor packs? Do you want to rely more off of your inspire? I assume that was the intention here as well.
Yeah, you know, the Inspire duration on whip shot is really nice if you're like, hey, I'm not triggering Inspire very often, right? Like when I get it, I need to get the full effectiveness out of so I can get more healing. You know, situations you're playing like Brigitte on a high ground on Gibraltar, right? Those whips comes infrequently, right? But now this other option is I'm getting in there. You know, I'm beating up the tank, I'm beating up people. I want to get more effectiveness out of this. I'm getting Brig packs back. It feels great to sort of get them up. It definitely is spooky adding this one. You know, 0.5 second doesn't feel like a lot, but if you're hitting it a lot, it can do things. But it's something that we'll see how it plays out. But the functionality of it is really fun.
It's as opposed to this one, the major perks, which were more about close, you know, dealing with proximity versus dealing with more range stuff. Combat Medic Morale Boost feels more like a, dare I say, tempo. You hit the whip shot, very important burst of value off of the Morale Boost, where the Combat Medic is just the more consistent output if you're kind of more consistently engaged. Makes sense. Now, Illari had some changes, which was specifically to Solar Flare, which replaced more of her heal resource perk. Now, I think this perk is probably going to have to be buffed pretty significantly. But I don't want to talk about its current iteration. I want to talk more about the intention and what the intention is. Maybe if, when it gets buffed or changed. What is the goal of this as a perk? What was the intention behind it?
The intention of this is like in situations where you need to heal, like your pylon's dead, you need to heal more than just one person. You have this resource, but you like can't beam. It's giving you a quick option to be able to shoot all your resource out, right? It's not as efficient unless you're hitting multiple targets. It's not as efficient as using just your right click to like beam people down, but it's a quick, fast option to be able to change. And it's an interesting choice to be made of like, when should I trigger this? When should I get the most of this healing? And it gives you that great feeling of like, if you hit multiple targets, it really is buffing, getting them up. I could see, as you said, like maybe it does need a buff at some point, but the intention of what it's doing, we are kind of.
Okay, so the intention is just basically, oh, what do I want to do with this healing resource? Do I want to do this, or do I want to just blow everybody back up to full really quickly at the expense of my full resource?
And then keep shooting, right?
Yeah.
So instead of having to hold it over someone, I'm willing to give up everything I have for that quick burst healing so I can go back to shooting.
It's the APM that you're allowing yourself to have. That makes sense. Okay. Juno got some changes, obviously. So the big one is some of her torpedo perks are moved around a little bit. So there's a slightly weaker version, I believe, of Locked On. And then crucially, you can triple jump now, which is crazy. But that is an opportunity cost versus having a little bit more, I guess, pressure output on either healing or damage output with the full auto. I'll swap over to that one. So talk me through the majors here, because those are the big ones.
Yeah, so I messed around with it pretty early of like, how would it feel if Juno's gun wasn't a burst fire and it had more of this like automatic nature and it felt like you were, going fast and you were blasting. So I really like the idea of like, hey, when you glide boost, your throughput is going up, right? We want you to feel like you're shooting faster, you're doing more. And I think it's up about like 20%, 25% to when you're just like shooting normally with your burst fire. Okay, I think some people have noticed being like, oh my God, it feels like it's not better because I'm only using 6 more bullets. It's actually, there's a lot of numbers being changed under the hood to increase the amount of healing, but we didn't want you to use all your bullets because it just felt like if it was full automatic, it was going the fastest, you just ran out of ammo immediately. So you'd press the button, you start shooting, and then it felt like you had to reload. So there are things moved around, so it does feel like it is doing more healing, but it's not using dramatically more ammo, so it does feel like you're getting the full effectiveness out of this. You can go aggressive with it, you can play defensively with it.
Makes sense. What was the logic behind replacing the crit perk for that one? Because a lot of people like the crit perk. It felt satisfying to use. So for many people, this was like a side grade. It's an interesting side grade because, as you said earlier, it changes maybe how you use your glide boost. It's not only used for you to move around. It might be used for a little bit of an offensive or defensive boost to whatever you're healing or shooting. But replacing the crit perk, why was that one on the, I guess, the chopping board?
The crit perk was kind of interesting because it's hard to feel like what the true effectiveness that you're getting out of this perk is. And on top of that, because of, prior to this, the fall off range of Juno being pretty high, in terms of your damage is getting reduced, it felt like you're never close enough to really get full effectiveness out of the crit. It didn't help you with your allies. It was just a purely offensive minded perk. I wanted to find something that it's still giving you more damage, it's still giving you that opportunity, but it's something that is a little bit more dynamic than what you had with
not just offensive. Okay, makes sense. Yeah. Again, empathy, lots of empathy here with this. Yeah. This character is not only difficult to balance, but also is like one of the culturally significant characters because she's very popular and also very, very hated. And also chronically hated, even though she's very rarely overperforming statistically. She's actually kind of a mid-support and has been 99% of the time. Now, she had crazy perks. So the big one that everyone hated was Shuffle, which was the one that was replaced. And it was replaced with essentially a slight variation of what you do with your Swift Step, which is essentially I can do things faster for a few seconds after I Swift Step, faster attack speed, faster reload speed for 2 seconds. Talk me through, I guess, that one and then the souped up Foxtrot.
So one of the cool ideas that we had with this is, so there's the 2 abilities of the teleport and the Suzu. And the idea was like, what happens if we split the effects of the ultimate onto both of the different abilities, right? So it's like, oh, okay, now you can get these things that you can already usually get, but you have to apply it to a certain different thing. And we definitely wanted to get rid of the double TP perk. It's definitely frustrating to play into, you know, the amount of mobility they had. So the attack speed allows you to, it's kind of like the Juno Faster Blaster one, where it's like, hey, if you use this mobility cooldown, it can actually increase your throughput of the amount of damage or healing that you're doing by like applying to a target. And then the Suzu CDR is something that we've never really given to someone outside of Kiriko's ult, of like it can apply to, you know, your allies. So you can put it on your allies and their cooldown's going to go down more. Obviously, there's been a lot of controversy since people have read this of like, hey, it also applies to Kiriko. And it kind of like the amount of cooldown that it applies to the Suzu and the Swift Step when it's used in combination is pretty high. And that's something that we are keeping an eye on with this perk as it's coming.
Makes sense. I do like the idea of, I mean, if you know, I've always been a fan of Suzu as an offensive or dynamic tool, right? I feel like the idea of having increased movement speed or cooldown recovery is sick. I would love for that to be better if it wasn't just only used on Kiriko, sadly. But yeah, the concept of like Suzu as a very dynamic ability, I think is really cool, and I think the concept of Foxtrot is really cool. So, okay, Weaver. Now, Weaver's seen a lot of iterations, famously receiving a lot of buffs, and I know he's very much a hated character. But I think that you guys have done a really good job, not just you, but obviously the hero design team, on making him a much more interesting hero to play and a much more interesting hero to play against. A lot of that goes with not just the perks, but also some of the base kit decisions as well. But some of that was changed recently with where the perks, and I want to work backwards here. So I want to start with the major powers. Super Bloom goes without saying, it's good, it's fun, but Petal Power here. So Petal Power, basically, you're trading off some of your damage such that an ally who's getting Petal is going to be attacking a little bit faster. So you're introducing a bit of utility into Petal that wasn't there before.
Yeah, so we're kind of looking in this situation of like, there's a lot of Weavers that love to play on top of their Petal, just because it's like, it is a very safe place to be. There's a lot of uptime that you can do. It can put yourself in a position that other people can't really get to you. So rewarding players who want to play in that style, right? Like, hey, now you're healing, and on top of that is 25% faster, right? So it's like rewarding players for being able to be on top of their platform, while also, if your allies notice it, you know, if you can get someone on top of that Petal and you put them in a good position, they're also gaining the effects of this as well. Sure. So it's just like, it's leaning into a playstyle that the Petal platform already takes people, but trying to incentivize people to do it more when you select this perk.
Sure, that makes total sense. I know a lot of people don't like that playstyle, but at least it adds some dynamism about like where direction you want to go with it. Now, with the minor here, you move Rejuvenating Dash, the Life Weaving, back down, and you added a weaker version of this. The way that I see this cooldown is it's like, okay, you're going to burn your defensive cooldown, you get a little bit more healing. Nothing more complicated than that.
Yeah.
I guess it's not really a whole lot to add. I assume that was the intention.
That's kind of the intention. Like, it's something that,
yeah.
like, 20 healing does feel a little low at times, but this is a cooldown that's on a 4-second cooldown that's going to happen a lot throughout the match. It's going to add,
Sure.
if you're getting this as a minor perk, you're going to be getting hundreds of extra healing like throughout the entire match, which can be valuable. It's definitely not the craziest perk in the world, but it's something that I think is really interesting and it's nice to be able to see, like, hey, if I use my dash in this situation, this healing is going to be more effective, and maybe I'll use this dash here so then I can help my teammate more. Yeah,
makes total sense. This one's cool. Obviously, Lucio's perks are pretty good, but you guys did a change that I was not expecting, which was replacing the boop distance perk with a boop distance perk that actually takes a little bit more strategy, because you got to charge up your boop to get the effect. Now, the boop is actually even stronger than it was before in terms of both the damage and the knockback, but it's not free value. It's something that you kind of have to earn by wall riding. It's cool. I don't really have a whole lot more to add. I'm sure a lot of people agree.
Yeah, it was like the boop distance was cool, but it's like, oh, sweet, it's just my boop goes further. It's kind of hard to read. It doesn't really change that. We really liked the old perk Grooven, the one that gave ammo, but it just wasn't useful. Like, Lucio players didn't find themselves out of ammo as much as we wanted. So we wanted to find a perk that would be incentivize people to wall ride and give them like some value here. So obviously 25% knockback is huge. So if you're going for those big boop moments, you can like charge this up, you can ready yourself. It holds for a very long time. Gives you that big moment, has 50% damage as well. So it's like, hey, now this is like bigger in the burst. It's what we're trying to go for with this.
Do you think there's any controversy here surrounding this in terms of conflicts of interest, considering your hero pool, selfishly? Or maybe do we just want to dodge that question?
I honestly, it's funny because I don't really have that kind of stuff. I think I have a better understanding of the heroes that I love and stuff like that. So it's like, I know what I would want on Lucio and stuff like that.
Yeah. You can't fool me, Custa. You can't fool me, Custa. I know how this goes. I know how this goes. Okay, Mercy. This one was cool. I mean, it is faster movement speed. You either get to your resurrect one, but you now are, when you're using really any GA tech here, which is super jump, your slingshot, your reverse bounce, like whatever you want to do, you're just moving faster. And everybody that plays Mercy that I've spoken to likes moving. And so now you do that, but you do it more. Seems pretty good. Seems to make sense. I don't know if you have any thoughts to add into this one. I guess the last few have been pretty straightforward.
Yeah, these are pretty simple minors. Like the wing reach, the range is obviously nice, but it's like it doesn't come into, it's already really long just by default. The range was nice, it just didn't come in. This gives like Mercies a lot of options of like, hey, I can get to places I've never been able to get to. If I'm comboing my jump right, if I'm using it at the right time, I can go so many different places that I've never been able to go before. So giving a little bit more of a mobility option to Mercy players.
Makes sense. We'll keep going. Now, Moira, we get a little spicy with this one. This one was really fun. So we're going to combine both the minor perks into a slightly longer fade, slightly further jump. And then crucially, you guys demonstrated this on stream. You can actually cancel it by pressing your input again. So you can cancel fade sooner, which is really cool. You have coalescence that goes either pure healing or pure damage. There's just more options to do with the coalescence. But reversal, this one was really cool because one of the things that I don't think people were thinking about is it's not just, you can just do more damage, but it also reflects the bounce as well. So you can do all sorts of weird things. Like I'm actually seeing a lot more geometrical like kind of thinking going on here. And I'm seeing a lot more of the orbs that I use when I decide to be unethical for a game getting fully utilized because I can actually control where they're going. So phenomenal idea. Do you think this perk is kind of doing what you're intending it to?
Yeah, that's what we were going for. Like, in the previous iterations of the major perks, it's kind of like they're just doing more than they used to. It doesn't change the way I thought about it. They were kind of hard to read on what they were doing. So this is something that gives a little bit more intentionality to the decisions that you're making. It makes you track your orb. It's like making you think about it. Once it's thrown, you're thinking about where it's gone. When do I want to reverse it? Has it gone past them? Has it gone past my allies? Do I want it to go back? And because of the simplicity of it just goes its previous trajectory, it helps you understand at a quick idea of like, where is it going to come back because you saw where it went the first time. Right.
So it's adding a little bit more thought. Would you say like being a little bit more intentionality, a little bit more forcing players to engage more with the game, is that maybe not a primary goal, but probably a pretty high priority for you guys when it comes to these perk designs? Because it sounds like that's something that keeps coming up. Like this perk got replaced because it just did something and nobody really thought about it or cared. And a lot of newer perks are more intentional.
I don't want perks to feel like something is like, I picked this because it makes my ability better, right? It just flat. I want it to be something that's like, especially major perks we talked about, it's going to make it better, right? Because that's perks in a nutshell. But I want you to think about why it's better. And like, I'm going to think about, I'm going to use it to make this better and stuff like that. So just trying to just stop, don't give just free value. Try and give value that you can gain.
Yeah, makes total sense. Wuyong? We got the resource while you're using your wave. So when you pop your wave, you get more healing and ammo. That's going to be overflow. That one is, I assume, kind of similar to the Lifeweaver one, where it's just like, okay, if you want to use your defensive movement cooldown, you can actually be more offensive and more heal focused if you're willing to burn that cooldown, I assume.
Yeah, the resource is something that is like can be very limited and feel very limited, especially if you're not weaving in the wave. So this is giving you like, hey, now if you have the torrent, you have the guardian wave to get resource, you can do more just like throughput healing if you're using this. So it's giving a nice option in case you want to use it like that, compared to balance, which is more dynamic, right, with how you're using it.
Yeah, balance would be more of, okay, hey, I can output a little bit more healing if I'm willing to take the time more and put more of my attention and resource into actually doing damage.
100%.
Okay. And then major ebb and flow, again, situational. You've got the shotgun orbs, which feel pretty good if you're able to consistently hit them. Maybe more of a tank shot, maybe more of a close range shot. And then ebb and flow, I found useful anywhere where I'm like playing in small rooms because you get both the rewind damage, but also the rewind healing. I believe, as well. So it's kind of be a really good self-defense tool if you're able to set it up properly.
I would say it's best in the situation, as you said, where it's like, it's kind of an offensive versus defensive option. Like, obviously, it coming back is nice, pushing enemies in, it does the damage again. But, like, being able to apply that healing option to your, allies twice comes back to you. And then, like, against the shotgun perk, which is really just, like, changing it fundamentally, but it is really, if you're doing damage with the orb, if you think you're going to be able to pump out damage, this is going to make it more effective.
Makes total sense. Finally, and actually a pretty interesting one to end on here, is Zen. So you've got Discord Orb Trance, which is crazy, because now you're like, oh, Trance actually has a little bit of utility besides just keeping myself alive and watching my teammates die to the DPS passive. But Classic. Also, you've got Second Harmony Orb. So that's something that we had seen before in the Junkenstein's lab. And it was really cool because it kind of made you think a little bit more about, managing multiple resources, kind of like what you were saying with the Moira Orb change here, but not sacrificing your damage too much. But then you have to decide, what do I want to give up? The Focus Destruction? Do I want to give up my float perk, which everybody freaking loves, right? There's some real choices involved in here. So talk me through these two new perks. Yeah,
so the Transcendence one was one that I just think is really interesting because it's like, it changes the way you position within this. It encourages your teammates to push forward. It offers a lot of damage, right? Like, it's crazy when you're in like this brawl fight and like 5 people have Discord Orb and your team is getting healed up crazy. Like, the value that the peak value that you can get from this perk is very high, but how much that is going to come into play, varies pretty heavily. So it's pretty cool. Decision to be made there,
and there's some risk involved too, because this as a pro support player. It's like you have to think about, where am I ending my trance? I don't want to end in the middle of the enemy team, so I got to be very careful about how I'm managing the end of that ultimate.
It's funny you say that because I watched Aspen. I was watching Aspen stream like a few days ago. Yeah, and Aspen did the same thing that everyone does the first few times they get it. They're just like in the middle of the team, and then they're like, oh no, I'm at the end, and they just immediately died after the thing. It's like, why did nobody die? They were all Discord. There is that cost there of like, you do need to be getting out. It just makes you think a little.
Makes total sense. And then with a double harmony, this felt like just more choices, more dynamism, a little bit of help with my tank, a little bit of help with my backline.
I really liked the old Major in that it like, you healed the target that you did Discord, but it was just so hard to know when you were getting value from that. Right. Like, it was hard to read how much your effectiveness you're really getting. Sometimes it was really difficult to actually even like fulfill that condition. So this is something that accomplishes something the same of like, you can do more healing with your orbs, but there is a pretty big cost here of your orb can only do as much as 70% effectiveness on any target. Right. So your tank can only get 70% of healing effectiveness, even though you can heal someone else, and your max of effectiveness is 140% of what you would usually get from the orbs. You can't heal any individual target as to the max. Yes. So this number is something that we went back and forth on a lot of like, hey, like, what, should it be 65? Should it be 75? Yep. It feels bad not to be able to heal up the target. There is a cost with this perk in the fact that you are limited. And on top of that, the upkeep of your orbs is dramatically higher, right? You're now having to make sure that you have 2 orbs on multiple people. Otherwise, you're actually losing value. So this is a really fun one to bounce around with if you want to play that game.
This is also you guys finding that careful balance with transformative neutral, because if somebody doesn't want double harmony orb because they want a full efficacy harmony orb to park on their tracer, going into focus destruction has 0 downsides. Like, you don't have to, oh, well, I don't want any of these majors. We're not stuck in an old Sombra problem. Like, you can just have free value or you don't have to use focus destruction if you don't want to, right? And you can still kind of get your harmony orb. Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot. Okay, any perks that maybe we didn't talk about, maybe some of the old perks or maybe the new perks we didn't delve in as deeply? Obviously, we've been over all of them. I don't want to take much more of your time here, but anything you would like to add here?
No, I would say like we've hit on pretty much all the perks. I would just say like the big thing is like, when we do these refreshes, we're listening to the community. We're taking a lot. There's a lot of changes. Like Season 18 had a ton of changes come through. And so we're keeping an eye on everything. We understand that, some people, they like this perk, but it's undertuned. They really think this perk is overtuned. We're looking at all the data. We're looking at the feedback, and we're constantly changing and iterating. And if we feel like a perk isn't landing, just like we've done since Season 15, we'll make sure to make changes and sort of try and find the perfect balance for where perks so that they feel like a fun living system within Overwatch.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best feeling. I mean, nobody can shame you guys for the expediency with which a lot of these changes have been implemented. You guys are so fast. And as I said, the cool thing with perks as well is then a lot of these perks, some controversial, some not, they have, for the most part, I think, replaced perks that were uncontroversially not really liked that much. So it feels like we're kind of always on the upward trend of we're trying things, we're experimenting, we're not afraid to make mistakes because that's how you have to develop things properly, right? And where every iteration of perks seems like a slightly better version of the previous iteration, and that's just honestly like really exciting. So, well, Custa, I really appreciate your time, mate. Thank you for the work that you guys do. I know you're not really in the content scene as much anymore now that you're full-time doing all the development work, but as always, it's always a pleasure, mate.
I really appreciate you. I watch a lot of your videos, a lot of people in the community. Like I'm always listening to you guys.
Sick.
As you said, I was a creator myself. I love being able to get feedback. I know you love being able to get feedback. And it's just awesome to be able to sort of jump on, talk to you very candidly about like the decisions being made, and just sort of like hopefully that we can all work together to make these things and the game as good as possible, because I feel like we're on a bit of a tear right now, and like the game is in a good spot.
I think so,
and we
too.
want to keep making it better.
And this is going to be such a weird thing to say as well, but I want to kind of highlight as well that like there was so little Corpa in this conversation. Megan's in here, is like, yeah, let's set up this. I asked if you wanted to do it, and it says like, yeah, let's do it. And Megan's like, yeah, it's like, don't do anything that legal's getting in trouble. And like, you know, this is the level of accessibility that you guys have with the community is like, I've never seen that in another game before. And we are really, really spoiled for that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that we can have these candid conversations, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Hey, you too. Later, chat.
Right. Cheers, man.
Thanks, Bala.
All right, y'all. That was Custa, obviously the one of the developers over for the Hero Design team, and hope that was good. Hi, I have to go in a few moments. I have a football game, so yeah, it was good. Like obviously, you know, a lot of questions a lot of perks to discuss. We was kind of have to move at a brisk pace without spending too much time, but I hope that you guys I definitely felt like I had a better understanding of like kind of what they're trying to implement as well. And as I said towards the end, it is encouraging to see like every iteration feels like they replace the perks that, you know, weren't as well received, and then we'll go from there. So, but yeah, GG's. It was a fun watch. For those of you that are like, why didn't you push back more on this perk? Why didn't you push back more on that perk? Well, there's a couple of reasons why. First off, I'm pretty sure Cuss is aware of all my feelings with all the perks, right? I want to allow him to kind of discuss the reason behind he chooses certain perks more. And, you know, because we're not always going to be correct with our opinions. And also, more importantly, there's just so many perks to go over. It's more respectful of the intention of what we're doing here to kind of like move on. And then if we really want to get into an in-depth conversation about why a specific perk is toxic or why these perks are bad or these need to be changed, that's something that would probably take more time. I would work on it as a side project and then submit that as feedback. Hi, Kitty. So just for the sake of, you know, being respectful for Custa's time and also being respectful of Custa's work, you could see there's some moments where I'm going to be honest and critical about some things, but again, I'm sure Cuss is already aware of which ones I like, which ones I don't like, and that's just my opinion. So we'll see. And yeah, any last questions here before we peace out here? Because I do have to end stream. Happy late birthday, Pepper.
My birthday's on Sunday.
Her birthday's on Sunday.
My birthday's on Sunday, and you gotta come to stream or come watch stream tomorrow because we have a big surprise.
We don't have a big
We
surprise.
have a big surprise. Do you want to tell me? Can we tell me what the surprise?
Well, Pepper's gonna be guest. She's gonna be coaching my Widowmaker.
I'm gonna be coaching. I am a certified almost gold 2 Widowmaker.
Yeah.
I'm at like 92% on gold 3. I just
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So she's gonna be coaching my Widowmaker, and we'll be having no, she will
I'm
not be
gonna
making.
roast him.
No, she will not.
I am gonna roast you.
No. And there's also a channel on my Discord
do
that they're
that?
throwing some memes up. So
Yeah. Also, send Spilo memes for what are we giving them?
I don't know. You're not getting anything. You guys aren't getting anything. You guys don't deserve anything.
It is our birthday, so maybe
Yeah. I should be
give
giving
us
things. I'm not giving you
and
anything. Maybe I'll do a gifted sub or something.
Your gift to us is mocking Spilo.
Yeah. That's the gift. Yeah. It's my daily struggle. All right, chat. Tell Hottie I said hey. I'll see you guys tomorrow.